I don't know about you guys, but deflating and airing up tires is kind of annoying. It's usually early in the morning when I get to the trailhead or after a long grueling day at the very end. Last thing I want to do is sit down squatted, hunched over for 20 some minutes airing up my tires. I've used a couple different systems like the ARB system where you remove the pin from the schrader valve. That's cool, but you're still kind of hunched over and you got to keep moving around. I've used a couple other systems, and at the end of the day, I just feel like we can do better. And that's where these four-way air-up systems and deflation systems come into play. There's a couple different systems on the market. There's the sponsored by Wi-Fi system, which is really cool. It connects to your onboard air and it's hardwired into your rig and your chassis, I think along the frame, and then you just kind of have these shorter lines that go from the chassis to each wheel. It's a really cool system, but I have multiple rigs, so I want something I can kind of transfer to different vehicles. There's another system on the market called the Morphlate. It's a great system. You got to add on the gauge and decide your wheelbase. And the thing with whether it's the Morphlate, the QuickFlate, or even the sponsored by Wi-Fi Air system, they're all good systems. They're just expensive. And so me being just who I am, I was like, I think I can make something just as good, if not better, but for a lot cheaper. And hopefully I can help you guys do that as well. So I went through a bunch of different hoses to decide what is the best hose for this. The first hose that I tried out was these pneumatic hoses. These are all often used in kind of like machine shop, machinery settings for pneumatic systems. These are super durable. They're actually made out of polyurethane. The only thing with this is it is super stiff. Like, this has crazy memory. It's fine like if you're gonna hard mount this into your rig, like on the truck and the frame, and you're gonna run it along and it's not moving around and you don't have to coil it up. Last thing I wanna do at the end of the day is try to wrestle my lines. So that's why I kind of decided not to go with this stuff. Other than that, it's super thin, right? And it's super light. These are PVC lines. These are relatively cheap. They're really durable. The only issue is they are stiff, and they get even stiffer in cold weather. They're also rather bulky, and at the end of the day, this is not the appropriate line to use for this setup either. So rubber lines are known to actually be super flexible, and the only downside to rubber is it's really heavy and bulky. So the market came out with these hybrid lines, which are rubber outer and PVC inner. So flexible yet durable. The only issue with these is they are still kind of stiff. And I don't know, great marketing, but actually I think in this application, it's not the best setup because you want something that gets compact, stores well, and doesn't have that much memory as we're unraveling and winding it back up. So guys, I told you I want to do this on the cheap. I really resisted using FLEXZILLA lines because they're kind of like the name brand. I was like, oh, you're just paying more for the name. But at the end of the day, I just realized, you know what? They're popular for a reason. They're the most flexible. And here's the kicker. These were on sale on Amazon for, I believe, $21. That's cheaper than all these other lines. So win-win-win, smaller, lighter, cheaper. I know that's kind of a rare thing, but here we got it. So guys, we're going to talk about the barb fittings. These are a crucial component. They need to be airtight. I've gone through, I think, 3 different brands because at the end of the day, they just didn't have a smooth surface or the barbs weren't sharp enough. And even though I put the hose on, I crimped and clamped them down tight, they would continue to leak no matter what I tried. I got to get rid of these. I ordered these other brands. The barbs are sharp, the quality is good. Once you actually stick these in, they are not coming out, so just be mindful of that. Get everything lined up, get everything measured before you stick these in. And the ones I linked down below, those are good quality. Don't skip out on these. Now, I wanted my air up system to actually look nice, and I know that's kind of silly as this is just a very functional project that we're kind of working on, but hey, might as well make it look nice, right? And so I went for these nice brass pneumatic fittings, and these are the ones that slip over the end of the hose and you crimp down. It's nice and smooth, and you need this fancy little wrench. This is actually a cheaper version, but still not cheap. The reason I decided not to use these were the diameter of the hose, depending on what brand you use, there's variation all over the place. And these fittings are very specific according to the outer diameter. And so I realized these fit on one type of hose, they didn't fit on another. And at the end of the day, as nice as they are, it's just not worth the risk. And also, you can't really use this for that many applications. What I ended up going with were these pinch clamp fittings. And so this comes in a nice little kit. This was, I believe, $29, which is the most expensive cost of the system. But they come with this nice little clamp and a bunch of different fitting sizes. So in this kit, you actually get all the different type of fittings that you could possibly need. And I went with this because you could use this on a garden hose, you can use it on a fuel line, you can use it on whatever you want to fix whatever you need. And so if we're gonna spend this much money, I'd rather get something that's kind of versatile and we can use on other projects. So what I do recommend are these cheaper fittings. These are from, I think, OpenAI. They are 4 for 19 bucks, a lot cheaper than Haltech's. They have the singular lever. A lot of people complain that the mounting points are just on one side, but I actually found that these mount more solid. And as long as you're not like trying to yank these off while this is still attached, I don't see them really causing any damage to the threads as long as you take care of them. And so the one thing that you have to make sure with these valves are that they are closed system, meaning they open up when you put them onto the schrader valve, and as soon as you take them off the schrader valve, they close up. Otherwise, you pull this off on one tire and then you got to run around to all the other tires to let them all out before all the air escapes, and then you lose the whole point of like a full-way air-up system, which is to equalize all the pressures. All right, now let's get to the heart of the system. This is, let's call it the manifold. You got this nice blue anodized aluminum air manifold. This is a 5-way, meaning there's 5 different ports. I don't recommend these. I don't like these. I just ran with these because I bought them. If you look carefully, I had to use so much thread sealant to get these airtight. If you look into it, just the threads are too shallow and you can't get a good seal. I probably recommend something like a brass manifold. I couldn't find a 5-way though, so if you go with the brass manifold, you might have to lose this schrader valve. Now let's talk about the air gauge. I use this one from Measurement. It's liquid filled. It feels very high quality. Some people say these traditional just analog gauges aren't as accurate. I don't know about you guys. I'm okay with 1 PSI off, 2 PSI off. It's not a big deal versus going digital. And Measurement actually makes a similar size gauge that's digital. And this digital gauge is a similar one to the ones that are used by the other systems that are fairly expensive. And so they're the same price. So if you want to go digital, go for it by all means. I don't want batteries in something like this, something that sits in my truck for months and months that could possibly leak, that's affected by the heat and all those things. So I like analog in this setup. Down here, you also got a schrader valve. I installed the schrader valve, not so much because I needed it. I built these for a couple friends and their compressors attached to schrader valves. And I know a lot of those compressors that you clip onto batteries and then they have the coil hoses typically clamp onto schrader valves. So that's what I added right here, which is nice because you really truly have a universal system. And this last port is a on-off valve. And so when it's in line, it is open, meaning air can flow in and out. And when it's perpendicular, it is closed, meaning it's a closed system. And so when you open this, and this is not attached to a compressor, this is where all the air comes out. And you can connect this to a standard compressor or like a ARB onboard compressor, and this is what would go into the female fitting. And you can actually close this and it'll stop the air compressor because there's a pressure sensitive switch in those onboard compressors, and if you open it, this will automatically start. The great thing about this setup is you can pretty much use any type of compressor. I can connect it to a CO2 tank and fill it that way. I can connect it to a standard compressor. I don't have my onboard compressor right now. It's in my Land Cruiser, which is at the body shop, but same thing. Or you can connect to a schrader valve like this. So some quick tips as far as assembly. It's super simple. It's pretty much just fittings and you're tightening it. A couple tools that you'll need is just kind of a spray bottle with some soapy water. some Teflon tape, and I needed this thread sealant because I don't know, this manifold just was giving me a hard time of getting airtight. And you obviously need your crimp fittings and your crimper. And so, you know, put on the Teflon tape, screw everything in, get it aligned. As far as these crimpers go, you want to put this on the hose first. And it's as easy as just crimping it like this. And just, you know, you don't want to overdo it, but make sure it's tight enough. And so just go like that and just push down and it'll crimp these nice and tight. They won't come off. They're actually easy to remove and undo with a screwdriver, but hopefully you won't have to do that. This soapy water comes really in handy because you use it to spray to see if there's any air bubbles forming, and that's when you know that there's a leak. As far as these hose lengths, it's super easy. Each car is different, so you get to customize it, but with 50 feet, you can pretty much do a long wheelbase vehicle like this Tundra. And so the first hose is from the manifold to this 3-way barb. I'll show you how easy and fast it is to mount these up. And the second line of hose is actually from that 3-way barb to that first schrader valve. The third hose is from the 3-way valve to this back tire. That's it, super simple. Now, once the tires are all connected, it's super easy to just deflate. And so this is where the air will come out. You just turn this valve. Remember, perpendicular is closed, inline is open. You can see in that time span, we dropped about 2 PSI to 28. So this is relatively fast. You don't obviously have to sit here and wait this whole time. Now that was relatively quick. I don't have to sit out here the whole time hunched over in the cold doing each tire. So that's the win. Now let's try airing up. Now this compressor is pretty hot because it's been working hard. It's pretty small actually, so wear a glove. Hey guys, hopefully this was helpful. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm gonna put a link to the parts and the prices in the description. And other than that, I'll see you guys next time.